Hello, this is Mark from Sound Matters, and today we're going to talk about Record Store Day. Are you going to go? What did you think of the list? I've seen the list. I've definitely got some thoughts of my own, but we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to hand it over to you at the end to let me know what your thoughts are, and if you've got anything in particular from the list that you think you've got your eye on. I'm going to take a look at some of my picks and see if it's enough to get me off my backside and down to a physical record store this year for this year's event. As I say, we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of the event too. I've talked about this on the channel before. I'll put a link to the video I did last year on this topic so you can check it out in your own time. I've also done articles on my website about Record Store Day, and it's definitely one of those things that divides opinion. You get people who love it and you get people who actually really don't like it. So it's one of those things that I think has probably pros and cons at the end of the day, but it's open for discussion, and let's just talk about today's list, or this year's list rather, and the pros and cons of Record Store Day. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So here is the list, at least for the UK. If you're in the US, I know most of you watch me from the US, then you'll need to go to recordstoreday.com, of course, where you'll get the list that is specific to your region. I find a lot of the releases are global, but there will be some varying differences or regional differences. So do check out the list that is relevant to your particular region to make sure you're not missing anything or picking up something that isn't available in your area. But anyway, I'm just going to go through this list and pick out some of the stuff that stood out to me. Of course, what stands out to you is going to be very different, and that's part of the discussion and fun of today's video. The first release I saw that I could be tempted by is Kasabian's self-titled release from 2004. This was their debut album that really did blend a lot of genres and was a real kind of boundary pushing thing at the time. It's only ever been released though as a little 10-inch like this across two 10-inch discs. So this is a 12-inch version of it for the first time, which hopefully should have some sonic benefits from a mastering viewpoint, just a little bit easier to get better quality mastering across two 12-inch LPs than it is squishing it into the surface area of two 10-inch discs. So that's definitely the first one on my list. I could be tempted by this. Next release I could be tempted by is one by Supergrass, and it's the album I Should Coco, which is well known for the track Alright, which was released as a very successful single in the UK in the 90s. It's a Zoetrope vinyl, so a bit of a novelty. I looked at some of these and there was definitely a trend towards this last Record Store Day, and I still haven't picked up a Zoetrope release, and I don't know, just because I love the vinyl format and what you can do with it, I could be tempted to pick up this. I like this album. I think it's a classic from the 90s, and I could be tempted to pick up a copy of this. It's probably last on my list in terms of the ones I picked out as a priority, just because from a sound quality viewpoint or whatever, it's not going to be the best. It's a Zoetrope release, but at the end of the day, I kind of like the idea of it, and if I see it, I could be tempted. The last one I've personally picked out is Bolan B-Sides, 140 gram translucent blue vinyl for Record Store Day, and apparently it's the first vinyl collection ever of Mark's 1972 to 1977 T-Rex B-Sides. So T-Rex had some great B-Sides actually, and this is just something a little bit different, translucent blue vinyl side and everything. Perhaps I'd probably prefer it just on black vinyl, but this being Record Store Day, we're all about the, novelty coloured releases and picture discs apparently. But anyway, this is just something a little bit different, a bit of a collector's item, and I am a bit of a sucker for all things kind of T-Rex, so I think I could definitely be tempted by this. This is probably the one on the list that I'm most looking forward to, personally. One of the sides of Record Store Day that I find a bit frustrating and a bit blatant profiteering is the endless picture disc releases of classic albums. Things like this Fleetwood Mac release, for example. I don't think I'll be going for this. I've got a total of about 3 copies of this album, if you include my CD copy of it as well, in my collection, so I really don't feel the need to add a picture disc version of it too. I think there is a bit of profiteering that goes on with this side of things. It's like, how many releases of these albums do we need? Last year there was a Rumours version just like this, and I said exactly the same thing. It's like, how many versions of Rumours do we need released? And by the time you get to that releasing picture disc side of things, it really does feel a little bit like profiteering, and I'm just not going to go for that personally. If you enjoy it, absolutely fine. Whatever, go for it. Enjoy the picture discs and everything. But for me, this just feels a bit like profiteering, and I think I'll spend my money elsewhere. So based on this, will I go? Probably, but I'll probably have to take the kids with me, so it really does depend partly on how they behave on the day as well. And actually, because of this very point, I didn't make it last year, but I did go a couple of days later, I managed to pick up this that was on the list from last year, the first Rolling Stones album. And in fact, there is a US copy of Out of Our Heads on this year's list as well. So I could possibly be tempted by that. What I won't do is be one of these people who queues out the front for when the shop opens, because that just takes away all the fun of it, and I refuse to get swept up in the hype to this degree. If that means that I miss out on a specific release this year, then so be it. But I go to have fun and enjoy myself, and that to me takes away a lot of that fun. So overall, I really do think that Record Store Day is still a force for good. I know it has its problems. I know there's a lot of profiteering that goes on. I know that the production facilities get very clogged up with major labels really just forcing through their releases for this event, and that can be very frustrating and difficult for indie record labels. But I think it is overall a force for good. It puts a spotlight on independent record stores. They need all the help they can get to compete with big conglomerates like Amazon, and I think particularly for younger record collectors, it's a great way for them to get into the hobby and see that there is more to life than buying your records perhaps just on places like Amazon. And the fact that there's just, community aspects that you can get involved with. There's live music events at a lot of these events as well. So that it is overall, I think, a force for good. I know there are some frustrations. I'll make my best effort to get out there this year, and we'll see how things go. So thanks ever so much for watching. Now it's over to you. Let me know what your thoughts are and what might be on your list down in the comments below. I really appreciate you watching this channel. If you'd like to support me further, you can do so using the discount codes that are always there in each and every video in that description for you to benefit from. There's no additional cost to you, but I get a very small commission that helps keep this channel going. Thank you ever so much for your support. If you're new to this channel, please do consider subscribing. I'd love to have you on board. But until that next video, guys, keep spinning, keep enjoying the music, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.